Hello everyone, and welcome to another installment of me reading Cassandra Clare's fanfiction, the side pieces that she had written. So, a few things to note before I actually get started here. I'm actually coming to the end of these little writings that she had. I'm really sad about that. But that's okay, because I have at least a million Sailor Moon fan fictions warming up in the bullpen to kind of replace these little readings throughout the month. So don't you worry, there will always be something that will be in this slot. But other than that, I will say that this particular little snippet that I'm going to read is actually coming out of the last book of the Draco trilogy, the Draco Veritas. And these sections actually were put throughout the book because they are the kind of the smut wizarding romance that Ginny was reading on and off throughout that particular fanfic. And the reason that I had taken them out is because after I had done my initial just insane rewrite, they didn't fit anymore. And I have tooled Ginny's character to be more like her and less of a simpering teenage girl, which we know, of course, teenage girls can be, but it's just not Ginny. So I have taken those out, but I still think that they are very funny and fun to read because they're ridiculous. So I have put them here. And to be so clear, I know I said in the past that, you know, I was not comfortable reading other authors' smut fan fiction, and that is still true because the last one that Cassandra Clare wrote in her little side quests, as it were, was called Written, and it was a Draco and Ginny fan fiction, and it was really good actually, but it was smut, and I have stated that I'm not really comfortable reading that here on my channel. So I will not be doing that, unfortunately, but if you guys can find a copy of that out in the world, I'm sure it exists somewhere, then I highly suggest you read it because it's actually quite good. These, however, are satire. So, satirical smut, that's all right. So without further ado, let's just get right to it. Passionate Trousers. The heaving waves on the vast black ocean beneath the castle sent a salty spray flying up over the rocks, leaving beads of water to form on the exposed alabaster skin of the tall, flame-haired witch who stood on the high balcony. Her salty tears mixed with the sea spray as she faced Tristan de Malcourt, the wizard who had loved her in every way it was possible for a woman to be loved, and then abandoned her to the cruel fate. Rhiannon laughed mirthlessly as she faced him now. "Tristan," she said, "I suppose you thought I would not find you." His firm grey eyes flashed. "On the contrary, thou art a very determined witch." She raised her chin. "Yes, I am." He turned to walk away. "It will do thee no good, Rhiannon. Thou must find another. I cannot love thee." "No!" She flung herself at him and almost bounced off his broad, muscular chest. So broad and muscular was it. "It's you, and only you, that I must be with." "What art thou saying?" He spun to face her, his robe swirling around his sturdy, muscular calves. Thou knowest I need my space. It is too late, Tristan, for I am with child. He goggled at her. Yes, she repeated, with child. The words hung in the salty air like overripe peaches. She gazed at him, her huge dark eyes filling with tears, and then he had gathered her in his broad, manly chest, raining fiery kisses on her full, flower-like lips. "Rhiannon," he cried, "this changes everything, my darling, my angel, my light, my life." Heedlessly she abandoned herself to his caresses as his long, muscular fingers dispensed with her bodice buttons more swiftly than a practiced summoning spell. She leaned back against the balustrade and let him do with her as he wished, her breathing becoming a hungry panting as he shoved her skirts up around her thighs, his hands stroking her creamy skin. She tried to banish the worrying thought that perhaps she should tell him that the child she carried was not his after all, but the child of the evil dark wizard, Morgan, Tristan's most hated enemy. Her heart broke as she thought of Tristan, who she had last seen being borne away unconscious, draped over the saddle of the beautiful but wicked Lady Stacia, cousin to the dark wizard Morgan, who was rumored to have an entire closet full of enchanted leather corsets with which she bent unfortunate wizards to her evil will. When she had drained them of their vital energies, Lady Stacia disposed of her victims in a bottomless pit, which her sniveling minions had toiled years to dig for her. Rhiannon burst into loud tears of grief. Her muffled sobs drew the attention of the captain of the pirates, a burly, dark-haired man who was striding shirtless over the heavily armed foredeck of the HMS Manly Intent, despite the fact that it was freezing and ice was forming on his chest hair. She had heard the other pirates refer to him as Sven, so Rhiannon was fairly sure that this was his name. Sven strode towards her as the surly waves lashed the heaving deck, and Rhiannon struggled uselessly against her bonds, disarraying a great deal of her clothing in the process. His dark green eyes seared into hers. "Look upon your homeland for the last time, my adorable prisoner," he growled, his eyes hungrily stroking her nearly naked body with their mesmerizing gaze. "Resistance is useless," purred the voluptuously evil Lady Stacia, her vast bosom rising and falling above the material of her leather corset like a temperamental souffle. "You are mine now, Tristan. Forget Rhiannon. I, and I alone, can take you to the snowy peaks of ecstasy." Tristan set his jaw. He would have folded his manly arms as well, but he could not, because Lady Stacia had tied them to a pole. "Rhiannon is my only true love, and I shall never forget her. Never!" Lady Stacia shrugged, and from her thigh-high leather boot drew a long phoenix feather, with which she commenced tickling the helpless Tristan all over his bare chest. Tristan began to suspect that she would not rest until she partook of his manly charms. Well, perhaps Rhiannon wouldn't mind if it was just this once, would she? Anyway, she had been carried off by pirates. Who knew when he would see her again? Rhiannon gasped and staggered back against the wall, clutching the tattered remnants of her garments about her with trembling hands. The ragged strips of damp cloth did not obscure the heaving, womanly curves of her bosom. Tristan feasted his eyes on them as he advanced, his wand outstretched stiffly before him. It was, he thought grimly, not the only stiff thing in the room. He dragged his mind back to the matter at hand. "How dare you approach me thus?" she cried. "You scorn to speak with me otherwise," he growled. "But I will force you to listen." "You abandoned me years ago," she snarled, her eyes flashing like furious emeralds. "I never thought you would return." "But now I have," he cried. "And now I am married to Montague," she replied, with a heave of her honey-colored breasts. "He is a good man, a fine man." "But you do not love him," Tristan snarled, advancing upon her and pressing her back against the stone wall with his firmly muscled arms. She writhed within his grip, but could not escape. "Not as you loved me." "I love you no longer," she spat. "I hate you. I despise you. Nay, I loathe you. And yet you cannot keep yourself from wanting me," he breathed, and covered her lips with his. She struggled, but it only brought her ripe feminine frame into more insistent contact with his rock-hard masculinity. His wand clattered to the ground between them, unheeded, but he no longer needed it to keep her at bay. She had begun to return his insistent kisses, panting desperately against his rather thick neck. "Oh, Tristan! Oh, Tristan! Oh, oh, oh!" "My flower," he whispered into her hair. "My angel, my flame-haired vixen." Trousers Aflame. Chapter 1. The chill of the dank dungeon clung to Rhiannon's tormented limbs. Again, she feebly struggled against the chains which restrained her ankles. The orbs of her straining bosom heaved moistly beneath the tattered cloth of her. A shaft of light pierced the dungeon gloom as the iron door creaked open, and the sinister hooded wizard who had taken her prisoner appeared, cackling maniacally. "Who are you?" Rhiannon gasped, thrashing wildly in her chains. "Who are you, and what have you done with Tristan?" said the wizard, and threw back the heavy hood which had, until this moment, obscured the features of her captor from Rhiannon's view. Rhiannon gasped. "Lady Stacia!" "Indeed, it is I," announced the voluptuous witch. Her dusky bosom heaved above the laces of her red velvet corset, and black jackboots adorned her shapely feminine legs. "Welcome to Castle Plumeria, Rhiannon," she sneered, and cracked the riding whip she held in her bejeweled hand. Rhiannon trembled in terror. "Undress yourself," Lady Stacia ordered. Rhiannon gasped and felt slightly dizzy, probably from all the gasping. "Surely you must be joking." "Strip," Lady Stacia cried, allowing the tip of her riding crop to graze the milky curves of Rhiannon's nearly naked torso. "Or I will do it for you." Rhiannon cried out as Stacia sashayed towards her, intent upon performing a myriad of unnatural acts upon her body, which Rhiannon would later pretend she had not enjoyed at all. "You must be some kind of demon." She then proceeded to... Trousers Undone. The Erotic Journey. "Oh, Tristan," she whispered, tightly clasped in his broad, rigidly muscled chest. "I always knew you would come for me, even during the darkest of my hours, deep in the dungeons of Castle Plumeria. I never despaired, even when Sven held me down and ravished me again, and again, and again." "Yes, well," said Tristan, "I think it would be best if we never spoke of that again, don't you?" He gazed at her, his eyes the color of impassioned hyacinths. "Oh, my minx, at last you are with me, and happiness is mine. Oh, Tristan! Oh, Rhiannon!" Furiously, Rhiannon tossed back her mane of honeyed silken hair, glaring at the man who stood before her, the man who had killed her father, dishonored her mother, driven her brother mad, and doomed her true love, Tristan, to a painful imprisonment deep beneath the dungeon moat. "You cannot break my spirit, Morgan," she hissed. The dark wizard Morgan chuckled, a deep, low rumble like a bassoon. His laugh, like everything else about him, was ineffably manly, from the muscular forearms revealed beneath the foaming lace of his sleeves to the coal blue eyes and tangles of raven hair. He was a gorgeous slab of masculinity. He was, she reminded herself hastily, also evil. "You will cooperate," he said to her, "or your lover, Tristan, will die by my hand, although not before I have tortured him sufficiently." Rhiannon gasped, and her milky bosom heaved beneath the thin gold satin of her robes. "You wouldn't," she moaned. "I would," Morgan asserted, leaning back against the ornate stone fireplace in a satisfied manner, an action which caused his satin breeches to tighten across his narrow hips and flat, muscular abdomen. "I'd enjoy it, too. I am evil, after all, and take great pleasure in acts of dastardly, if pointless, sadism." Rhiannon averted her eyes. "What is it you want from me, Morgan?" "That should be obvious," he purred. "You, my sweet." He began to move towards her, his lean, graceful form like a panther's. Rhiannon trembled. Truly he was evil, but since the moment she met him, he had stirred her passions as no other man had, before or since. "Oh, Tristan!" Rhiannon flew across the room to her beloved. Her frail taffeta gown was shredded where the dark wizard Morgan had torn it. Beneath its inadequate covering, her bosom heaved and trembled like two dishes of aspis being served for dinner during a storm at sea. "I thought I would surely never see you again." Yes, Tristan said, holding her at arm's length. "Don't fuss yourself, darling, and do be careful of my hair. There's a puppet." Rhiannon turned to her beloved's companion, the frightfully handsome Lord Sebastian d'Austin. "How can I ever thank you for keeping my Tristan's spirits up during his dark time of captivity?" she gushed, heaving in his general direction. Sebastian scratched at his neck, where there were a number of dark red marks, signs of the torment he had endured. "Well," he said in a measured tone, "there were some touch-and-go moments." "More touching than going, really," said Tristan, and they both sniggered. "Merlin's beard, you're clever," Lord Sebastian said. "Get over here, you clever, sexy bastard." It was only as Tristan detached himself from her grasp that he might sidle over to Lord Sebastian and began kissing him that Rhiannon began to twig that something fairly unusual was going on. And that is all she wrote, folks. So again, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you have not. And if you are interested in supporting me monetarily, in my About section here on YouTube, you will find a link to all of my other stuff. I have a Patreon for people that would like to see the spicy art I do, as well as these spicy writings. But if that is not something you are interested in, I also have a Ko-fi as well. So, again, thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you all in the next one. Good night.